And welcome to the Cincinnati Sports Scene Podcast. As you can tell, Dave is not here today. He is traveling back from Pittsburgh, I believe, from a softball game. So it's just me and then Charlie Crawley and then Benji, the producer, is on here as well. So we're just going to do a quick, little recap of the week that was Bengals Reds FCC, and then we're going to get into what you guys are here for, the bracket talk, tourney talk here. Real quick here, the Bengals free agency news. Mike Gesicki is kind of in my eyes, the big addition, tight end on a one-year deal kind of thing. I thought that was a really good pickup for the Bengals. Kind of signifies what they think of the tight end position. We're going to get a veteran guy in here who we think can excel with Joe Burrow, throwing him passes on a one-year deal, and then he can go get paid somewhere else. We've seen that move now pretty much 4 years in a row. Worked out, 2 of the 3 previous years, so we'll see if they can at least go 3 for 4 this year. But to me, that signing kind of takes Brock Bowers out of play if he even were to fall that low. I just don't think they value the tight end position high enough to draft him that high. Some other free agency, Von Bell is back with the Bengals. So it'd be interesting to see where he fits in, if they're going to do like a 3 safety mix or Von Bell is going to take one of those permanent starting spots. And then the defensive tackle from the Texans, Rankins, I believe is his name, who replaced Reeder, came in on a 2 or 3 year deal worth $30 million. Those 3 were the 3 big signings in my eyes. And I think all 3 of those guys are going to be key contributors for the Bengals next season.
Yeah. Just a couple things I was thinking of actually as you were talking, Sam. I did very much like the Gesicki pickup. He's a pass catching tight end. They did bring Drew Sample back as your blocking tight end, and I believe Tanner Hudson also re-signed.
Yep.
So you got Gesicki, Hudson to catch, and Sample to block, and Sample even lined up in the backfield, I think, a little bit last year. Since they don't have a fullback on their roster, so he kind of plays that role. So I definitely like that one. I think Gesicki could have a big year with somebody like Burrow throwing to him. He hasn't had that, a quarterback like that, and he still has caught. I think his best year he had over 60 catches, 56 catches with the Dolphins. Can't even count last year. I mean, the Patriots are such a mess that, nobody, you could have had Randy Moss with the Patriots and he would have caught 30 balls or whatever. So can't even count that. So I definitely, that's my, my favorite pickup of the free agents so far. The safety position is interesting because you also have Geno Stone that they picked up, a younger guy, who they really like. I think a lot of times this week as I've listened with the Geno Stone pickup, I've kind of had the kind of Reds vibe where, because Geno Stone intercepted Joe Burrow, in one game, they're like, oh, Geno Stone's great, we better pick him up, kind of thing. Like, the Reds have that too, where they like Candelario was like a stud against the Reds, so it's like, let's give him $45 million. So
Ryan Ludwig back in the day, brought him in.
Awful, how they go, one game or whatever. So hopefully he's better than that, because the problem, the Stone, they say, is he's not the best tackler, which does worry me. A safety should be able to tackle. It's kind of their main job. So that worries me a little bit. But even I think the bigger question now is Dax Hill. You have Geno Stone, you got Von Bell, who they're paying again, and you still have Jordan Battle. So what is Dax Hill now? Is he really going to be your 4th safety?
Do they try and move him to the slot?
Yeah, right. Or is he? Do they work him in with Mike Hilton? This is probably it for Mike Hilton this year. Does Dax Hill start taking over some of that position? The Paul Dehner Jr. Podcast even brought up the fact maybe they'll trade Dax Hill, as in terms of especially for a defensive tackle, because we're still, I think, weak in the defensive tackle. Rankins is a more of a pass rush tackle versus DJ Reeder was more of a run stuffer, and they don't really have run stuffers in that that defensive tackle position. They were really bad even with DJ Reeder. They weren't really that great against the run. So So that was an interesting take. I hadn't thought of that one. I guess mainly because the Bengals don't do creative stuff like that very often. But
Yeah, they don't.
So
They don't just trade.
Mm.
I don't. What was Billy
I mean,
Price like the last trade they made?
the BJ Hill, which
Yeah.
turned out well. So you would think that
Yeah.
would encourage him to do it more often. I mean, they stole that. I mean, that was a 100 for a 0 basically. So I don't, it should encourage them to do it more often. But they still need a right tackle. So if Brock Bowers, dropped, I think if an offensive tackle was sitting there, they almost have to take an offensive tackle now. They've kind of, unless they, I mean, I assume there's still a few guys sitting out there, free agents they could pick up for a year. Jonah Williams got way more money than I expected than he got.
He's got to go play for the Cardinals though. So
yeah, well, I'm sure he's happy though, because like I said, I didn't expect him to get that much money from a team. So I would, if nothing else changes, I would think you'd be leaning to a right tackle in the draft first round.
Yeah, I saw some rumors for the guy from the Jets. Becton was in Cincinnati.
He was here, yeah. So was Tier Tart.
Yeah, it sounds like Becton didn't get a deal anyways.
He's been terrible.
Yeah, I'm not sold on him anyways. I guess it's kind of an upside play, but at that rate, you might as well just brought back Jonah Williams because he was still a first round pick, and at least he knows the system.
And Jonah Williams has been better than Mekhi Becton.
Yeah,
I mean Becton's not good. I'm actually okay that they didn't bring him in.
Yeah,
or, if they don't sign him, I think there's some other guys out there they can get for a year versus that guy.
Yeah. I see the thing with the Bengals is I just don't trust them to draft an offensive lineman. Especially that's going to come.
Their history's not good
and be productive. So it's a bit discouraging, that they haven't really got anybody and there's no real options. I don't know. Maybe we'll see a post-draft cut of somebody and they can bring in a veteran who can compete for a spot there. But yeah, I mean, I give them probably a B right now for their off-season stuff. The guys that they brought in, I didn't even mention Zach Moss. They brought in Zach Moss.
Oh, that's true.
Ended up trading Joe Mixon and, got something for him.
Yeah, that's a plus.
So, then Zach Moss is a much more explosive runner than Joe Mixon is and was.
Cheaper. A big thing for him was he was cheaper.
Cheaper too. I'm not sure pass blocking if he's any better than Mixon. It's not hard to be better than Mixon at pass blocking. So maybe he is. But I think that move opens the door for Chase Brown to be kind of the number one running back.
Yeah, I would think Moss and Chase Brown will share the backfield. I could see him drafting somebody too. Fourth, fifth round kind of guy,
especially a
just
bigger
to throw
back.
in there and compete. They did re-sign Travion Williams, but I just still don't understand that. Like again,
special teams move, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, he's not a good kick returner, and that's the only time I ever use him really. So
yeah, I don't. Does he run down on kickoffs? I don't know. Yeah, maybe they like his skill there. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, they're talking about the kickoff. They're talking about phasing that even more out of the game. I think.
Oh yeah, the XFL kickoff or whatever. Yeah.
So that's gonna eliminate the need for those kind of guys that much. So, but we'll see.
That's true.
But I like the Zach Moss pickup. There's none of the ones I don't like. I just think they still have some holes, and the not having a right tackle does worry me. Throwing a rookie in there or some retread, waiver. I mean, again, you're supposed to be protecting your franchise, and having a retread or for even a first round pick, he still doesn't know the NFL. I mean, that's one of the toughest positions to learn for a rookie is a tackle position. You don't see a lot of good rookies, their first year having a really, really good season. So that worries me just because it's Burrow and we're supposed to be, supposed to be protecting him. So.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely, I guess that's the number one priority here for the rest of the offseason is to solidify that position and then defensive tackle depth. So.
Yeah.
And a punter. We need to find a punter too.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet. They'll probably use like a 4th round pick on a punter or something.
Yeah. Well, they'll use that 7th they got for Mixon on a punter. So.
That's true. Yeah, the punt god, he got picked up by someone, so they could have got him cheap.
Chiefs. So. I got him from signing with the Chiefs. I guess one last thing on the Bengals are the T. Higgins trade request and subsequent rumors. I know this isn't realistic, but I have got my hopes up.
Start over?
No. No, it's still going on the podcast just for.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, the producer there.
Now that he's on screen, he's gotten all
Yep.
nervous about it and all,
Yep.
having issues. So
Also, I usually don't have the start and stop button on my screen, so that threw me off.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just keep trucking along, I guess.
well, you were talking about Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
which
Justin Jefferson. Yeah,
you know, it's not going to happen, right?
You know, it's a pipe dream, and if Duke Tobin and Katie Blackburn can pull that off, they can do whatever they want the rest of their lives, and I'll be happy. So I'll give them credit for being good GMs. Or whatever their titles are these days. So
yeah. But yeah, the T. Higgins issue is out there, so they have to. But you can request a trade, doesn't mean you're going to get one. And
right,
I don't think
Williams last year didn't get one. So
and I don't think the Bengals are going to get what they want. I mean, I was shocked at Justin Fields. That he got traded for a 6th-round pick. I mean, I think the Bears were looking for a 2nd-round pick, and they just basically gave him away out of the Steelers. So, I mean, Steelers are paying nothing. They're paying nothing for Russell Wilson, and they just traded all they had to give was a 6th round to get Justin Fields, who probably is better than Russell Wilson. So, Steelers, I think, won out in that quite a bit. The Bears are typical Bears, screw it up. So,
right. Yeah.
But okay, let's turn our attention to the Reds. There hasn't been a lot of news, which in some cases is good. I mean, there's no injuries. Lodolo's, has started a few games. I think he's pitched 4 or 5 innings so far. So, usually when you hear a lot of news in spring training for a team, it's bad because of injuries or, something's going on. So that part's, knock on wood, has been good. Again, I try not to get caught up in spring training stats. The starting pitchers, if you do worry about spring training stats, then the starting pitching has been pretty bad. I think they all have like ERAs over 7 or 8 or something, including our opening day starter, who has got over 9, I believe, at this point. So little intrigued by that. Bell already aimed Montas the opening day starter. Why do you need to do that? I guess my first question is, when it comes to that, I mean, you just set the rotation up how you want it, and then wait till a week before, and then name them. I mean, I don't really understand that move, but I don't really understand a lot of times what the Reds do. So that was, one small piece of news. I mean, it's just opening day. Opening day is great, but it's just one start. So, Montas, is the veteran, I guess. Maybe it'll light a fire under Hunter Green, because he probably expected to be the opening day starter. So maybe it'll spur him on a little bit. Hitting's been, again, worrying about stats, but hitting's been pretty decent, at least for the main guys. Even old Stu, he's having a good spring. So he's probably, now with steroid man, Marte, there's 2 spots open. So Fairchild, I think, had already locked down 1 spot. Yeah, so now you're open to a 2nd spot. And, if I had to put money on, I'm going to say Josh Harrison, just from a veteran standpoint, with Votto being gone, who, by the way, just he hit a home run today. First step.
Yep.
But so I think Josh Harrison, he's versatile, but he's going to bring that veteran presence that we don't really have right now. So, any thoughts on the Reds?
Yeah, I think Stu's a lock to make the roster. I saw Friedel picked up a little injury yesterday, maybe 2 days ago.
Yeah, diving.
I don't know if they've said, if he's going to miss any time or start of the season's in jeopardy there. But I mean, Friedel's kind of the one guy I don't think we can afford to lose, because we don't really have another center fielder, unless you want to try McLean or Ellie there, which I don't think they do. Sounds like they want them second and short. So that means on the roster wise, it's either going to be Stu or I guess Will Benson.
Right. He's played a little bit there.
Play center, and I mean, Benson can be an adventure in the corners, so I don't know that I'd really enjoy watching him in center.
Heck, maybe that's when if it's long term, maybe that's when you bring Blake Dunn up and try him.
Yeah, try him in center. Yeah, and that might be the move if Friedel's going to be out for a while. And I mean, Blake Dunn can end up making it over Josh Harrison too, just for the fact that he could play center. I don't know that Josh Harrison can play center at this point in his career. I think he'd be a corner outfielder, second baseman type guy. But yeah, when I saw Montas was the opening day starter, the first thought that hit my mind was, oh, what happened to Green? Like, what injury did he get? Because I don't know. You've got Green, you signed him to the pre-arbitration extensions and everything. You signaled to everybody that he's your ace moving forward. I don't know. It's year 3 for him. I think you have to give him opening day. I don't know. Maybe it's not that big a deal. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I thought you would give it to, the future of your team, future of your rotation, rather than somebody bringing off a free agency who pitched. I think he made one start last year because he had a shoulder injury. So,
right.
It's a bit of a risk just in, from the opening day standpoint, just opening day itself. But yeah, I'd like to see Hunter Green be named the opening day starter over Montas, but it is what it is. And, that's David Bell's decision. One of the few decisions he actually gets to make. It's not handed down to him on a piece of paper by the nerds upstairs. So, I guess he was.
Well, maybe the nerds did hand down. Maybe Montas has some kind of analytics about some issue when he's opening days. Yeah, maybe it was handed down to him.
Yeah, 405 first pitches. Montas, has a 270 ERA or something.
I mean, I think if it was up to David Bell, he would have every pitcher pitch 1 inning on opening day. So, just so he could try everybody out, and like little league, like when you go to tryouts for little league or whatever.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Every fielder's 2 at bats, and then
everybody has to catch.
Yep. All right, that's enough of the Reds. Not a whole lot going on there. FC Cincinnati won today. They lost to Monterey midweek.
Vasquez again.
Vasquez again. Knocked out at CONCACAF Champions League. Going a little tangent here about CONCACAF, and Liga MX and MLS are very comparable, except when you get to the top teams. And I think it's solely just because of how MLS is set up. Their top teams are at a disadvantage. Liga MX does not have any salary cap structure in place. They can, as you can tell, they can just pick somebody off, like Brandon Vasquez, pay him $8 million. And whereas FC Cincinnati, they couldn't pay him more than, I think, like $750,000 is all that they could have paid him, because they don't have a designated player spot. So,
except for Miami, they don't play by those rules.
Because for whatever reason, Miami can do whatever they want. So I mean that's one of the flaws of MLS and soccer and just kind of sports in America is the salary cap. Baseball, basketball, football doesn't really matter. Baseball doesn't have one, but football and basketball doesn't matter because they're only competing with teams from America. There's no international play where other teams can construct their roster differently. So when FC Cincinnati in the future is going to get into these CONCACAF championship tournaments, they're not going to win because of that reason, and because the tournament takes place at the beginning of MLS's calendar, whereas it's mid-season in Mexico. These teams are, they've been playing for a couple of months already. They're in good form. So
is Liga MX on the same? Are they on the same calendar as Europe?
Yeah,
they take the summer
similar. Off. Yeah, they have they have like a opening period, and then they have like a break, and then a closing period, and then they've got the off season. It's like their season starts in like November or something like that, and then it kind of they have like an off period, and it's a similar calendar to Europe, so they're definitely at an advantage just from that aspect. They've got some games under their belt. They're fit. I didn't see the FC game today. I know they won 2-1. Lucho scored a goal almost immediately after he came on.
Why didn't he not start? Just tired legs?
Probably, I would assume tired legs. Yeah,
I did see he scored on a free kick. I did see that.
Yep.
Right outside the box.
Yep. And so they won 2-1. Back in the win column now. They're back to just playing once a week. So hopefully that'll help them out. They still, they scored a goal off of a free kick. Nothing really from open play, which is, again, concerning. Just the lack of goal scoring threats that they have on their roster.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. I just saw the the stats from it or whatever. And Revolution possessed the ball like 61% of the time, something like that. So that's I don't maybe because Acosta's not out there. I mean, he's going to be your ball dominant, midfield, and so without him, you're not going to be able to control it as much. I didn't realize when I saw that stat until later that he hadn't played the first half. So I didn't see. Did Kubo score off of some kind of set play too, or?
It was kind of like just a cross into the box, kind of got batted around. He headed it. The goalie saved it initially. That's what they called. But then they, the goal line technology overturned it kind of just in the middle of the play.
But that was on open play, not from like
It was open play, but yeah, it was still kind of, a bunch of people in the box kind of just scrapped it,
Yeah, right. It was kind of a jump goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, offense obviously is an issue. They couldn't score again. I mean, they scored the one against Monterey just from Lucho dribbling through like five guys or whatever. So he did a Messi. He basically did a Messi. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, they've had 8 games. I don't even count the Jamaica games. So they had 6 games against legitimate competition, and I'm assuming not without looking, their open play goals have been less than.
3?
2 or 3 or something, maybe
3. I can think of 3. I think in those 6, they probably only have 7 goals, maybe total. There was a couple goalless games for them, and then they've had 2.
They won. The other win was 1-0. I think
it was 1-0. Yeah. So they're going to be hanging their hat on defense this year. But they've got to get goals from somewhere, otherwise you're sitting with a bunch of draws, you don't get the full 3 points, and then your playoff matchup's not as favorable. You're not playing at home and all that good stuff. So,
right.
Yeah, it definitely can be tough. Benji, you got some trivia for us?
Oh, yeah, trivia.
Yeah, I do. All right. So this is spring training, Red Spring Training trivia. In April of 1991, the Reds were playing against the Tigers, and Tom Selleck got an at-bat. So the question is, who was the Reds pitcher who struck out Tom Selleck?
1991? Yep. Is that the year you said, 1991?
Yep.
God. So that was right after they won. That was after they won the World Series. Yeah. This is spring train. Oh, yeah, with Tom Selleck. Yeah. Oh, my God. This could have been anyone. Is it somebody we will have heard of? It was like a actual legitimate Reds pitcher, or was it some guy that was driving school buses after the spring training was over?
It was a legitimate Reds
pitcher.
Relief pitcher. Okay. I'm 91.
So I'll go Rob Dibble then.
That's where I was going to go. I was going to say Rob Dibble or one of the Nasty Boys.
Randy Myers, Norm Charlton.
Nope.
No.
None of those guys. Scott Sullivan.
Nope.
Who else were relievers back then? Jack Armstrong might have been a reliever that year. No. Scott Scudder. No.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know my Reds 1991 relief pitchers. So
I'm just based on the 90 season. I'm trying to remember the guys who were in the bullpen in the 90 season.
Which this guy was in the 90 season.
Here, I'll be right back. While you're thinking, I'm taking some more guesses of this. I'll be right back.
All right. You're sure he was a relief pitcher? He wasn't a starter?
Yes. Yeah. Just played in the 8th inning.
Well, it still could have been like a starter, who was just relief pitcher. But
here, I'll look up just to make sure.
Okay. You do that.
I just assumed that he was a relief pitcher.
You're probably right. Coming in 8th inning, more than likely he is going to be a relief pitcher. But yeah, if he's not, I can only think of, maybe Seaver or Jose Rijo. Those are two starters. I don't know. Other than the Nasty Boys, I don't know my Reds 91 relievers. So, do we have confirmation? Was this guy a relief pitcher?
Sorry. Well, did we get our winner?
We did not. I threw out Rijo and who was the other guy? I said I can't even remember now. Just
Tom
in case
Browning
it was
or
wrong. Yeah, Browning.
Danny Jackson.
Just in case it was a starter, but.
Yeah, well, the only thing that I can find on this guy is it just says pitcher on Baseball Reference.
No, that's fine.
Who struck out Tom Selleck? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to. I guess if
if you know it
fans
out
of the
there,
show out there,
right.
Yep, you guys know where to find us by now. You should, anyways. Instagram, Twitter. Send us an email with your answers, and maybe you'll win a sticker. I don't know if we got any more stickers laying around or anything like that. So
Benji will personally send you a gift for
Yep.
answering his Tom
Yep.
Selleck question. So for you younger listeners out there, you may not even know who Tom Selleck is, but for the veterans, you'll know who he is. So okay, good question. Let's move on to our topic of the night, which is the NCAA basketball tournament. As the bracket came out today, finished up around 6:30 or so. Just to kind of lay out the number one seeds. I guess the number one overall seed is UConn, then North Carolina, Houston, and Purdue. Thank you. I'm like blanking there. It's Purdue, North Carolina, Houston, and UConn are the number one seeds. And the topic, which I don't feel is that much of a topic anymore, is who was snubbed, and I don't think anybody can even say anybody was snubbed these days.
I think Indiana State was snubbed.
Well, the problem with this year is you had four or five
bid stealers.
Bid stealers that would not have made the brackets. So that was tough. That knocked out Indiana State, Pitt, St. John's, maybe. Big East only ended up with 3 bids, so I'm sure the Big East is pissed. They were expected 5 or 6, and they got 3.
That's 3. Yeah, they're gonna. Wilkins said we got 3, and the Mountain West has 6.
Right.
And
the Big
East is probably a better conference than the Mountain West.
You would think so.
Yeah.
So
that was a bit of a surprise there. They mentioned it on the broadcast. The Mountain West was seeded pretty low, considering they got 6 teams.
But that makes it. But that to me tells me that they think the Mountain West is weak.
Yeah.
It's strong enough to get those teams in, but no Mountain West teams are. What's the highest 5? I think the San Diego State, maybe.
San Diego State's a 5, and I think there's a 7 and a couple 10s, an 8 seed maybe in there. Yeah. They definitely did not get high seeds at all. I think New Mexico's an 11 because they won the conference tourney there.
Where's your Big East teams? You got a 1 seed, you got a 3 seed, and
a 4 seed. Or no, a 1, 2, and a 3.
A 1, 2, and a 3.
1, 2, and a 3. Yeah.
So that would be my argument right there off the block, that the Big East overall is a better conference. You got 3 much better teams.
The number 1 overall seed, a 2 seed, and a 3 seed. So
Big 12 gets 8. Big SEC gets 8. Big 12 was expected not at one point 10, so they get 8. Oklahoma was the snub on that. I think they would have gotten in without the bid stealers.
Yeah.
SEC at one point had there was a lot of talk with them with 9, so I don't know who their 9 team was, but so that's probably the storyline of the bracket, just the bid stealers and some teams that would have gotten in were not able to. But I've gotten to the point now where I just whatever. If you're not one of the top 68, then to get in, then let's move on, and probably in the next couple of years it's going to go to 76, and then you're even that argument's even going to be lesser as they add teams to it. So any other storylines you can think of before we talk about who are our predictions?
The main one is UConn, legit do they have a legitimate chance to go back to back? I mean, they're the number 1 overall seed. What's surprising about that to me is their team is completely different. Their key players are all completely different. They were on the team last year, but they weren't the guys. So for them to, to kind of have that step up and get the number 1 overall seed, and they've got a legitimate chance to win it all. And then can Purdue bounce back from being upset by a 16 seed last year? Can they pull a Virginia and make a run at the whole thing? All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and we'll make our picks here. So yeah, we'll just start kind of how the bracket lays out. So we'll start in the East.
We're all frozen.
So we'll start in the East here.
Did I freeze up?
I think you did freeze up because I was still.
Because you guys froze up on mine, then I saw I was trying to reconnect. So, but yeah.
All right, I think we're good now. So yeah, like I said, we'll start in the East. I'll just kind of run down my first round matchups here, and then Crawley can do the same. So, I only have 2 upsets on this side on this quadrant of the bracket. So I've got UConn winning. I've got FAU beating Northwestern, San Diego State over UAB, and then I've also got Auburn over Yale. So my first upset comes against BYU. I just hate BYU with a passion. So this isn't even really a basketball play. It's just I won't ever pick BYU to win. So I'm going with Duquesne to beat BYU. And then I've got Illinois over Morehead State. And then one of the bid stealers in Drake, I've got them over Washington State. And then I've got Iowa State over San Diego State. Iowa State's win over Houston on Saturday was maybe the most impressive win I've seen all season. The way they just absolutely destroyed Houston. I kind of thought that they would get a 1 seed and maybe bump Houston off of that just for that domination. But I guess Houston's overall body of work was still good enough in the committee's eyes.
Yeah, and they didn't. Iowa State was not even the highest ranked 2 seed.
No, they weren't.
So I believe Tennessee maybe it was.
I think it was Tennessee. Yeah,
the highest 2 seed, and they really haven't been that great. I mean, the last couple weeks lost to Kentucky, they lost early in the tournament. So, but yeah, I thought the same thing that Iowa State may get a bump from that, but they didn't, because I think they were a 2 seed going into the tournament, and they're still a 2 seed. So, from that standpoint,
yeah.
Okay, well, I have everything the same except for I have BYU winning. I definitely have a Big 12 bias. I've watched more Big 12 basketball this year than I've ever watched in my life, and I'm impressed by the Big 12 teams. I think now that they're done playing the Big 12, it's going to be like a freaking picnic for them. Like, we're not getting the hell beat out of us every game. And there was that stat that in the Big 12, even with UC, that after you play certain teams in the Big 12, you almost lose your next game every single time. Yeah. I mean, Houston was like that. UC, Iowa State was like that. So I think going against these other teams are going to be, they're going to almost be a relief for them. So I'm going BYU. I did go Drake, and then that puts me at. Do we want to go to a different thing or stay with that bracket? Stay with the East. This is the East.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I have UConn beating Florida Atlantic, and then playing Auburn. I was, Auburn winning the SEC, seemed to be kind of on a little roll. And then I have Illinois beating BYU and Iowa State winning.
Yep, I've got all the same winners there, Benji. UConn, Auburn, Illinois, and Iowa State. On to the Sweet 16, I've got UConn beating Auburn, and I've got Iowa State beating Illinois, and then I've got Iowa State moving on to the Final Four. Might even be a little recency bias just from that Houston game, but I was thoroughly impressed by Iowa State.
Okay. So, Benji, I also have UConn versus Iowa State in the Elite Eight game, but then I have UConn going to the Final Four. I'd love to see Iowa State do it. I'm definitely going to be rooting for them. I mean, they made UC look silly when they played them. That was the game with like 25 turnovers or whatever it was. So, I'm rooting for Iowa State, but I think UConn won that one. So that takes us to let's go to the West, since that's the other on the same side of the bracket as the East. So my first round in the West, I need to pull up
it's UNC's.
I have the winners. But not okay. So I have North Carolina beating whatever 16 seed comes out of that game, first 4 game. I have Michigan State. I'm always biased with Tom Izzo in the tournament, even though they played like crap this season. Michigan State over Mississippi State. I have St. Mary's beating Grand Canyon. I have Alabama beating Charleston. I have New Mexico with an upset, or maybe an upset, but at least by the seeds. New Mexico beating Clemson. ACC did not impress me at all this year. I have Baylor beating Colgate. I have Dayton over Nevada. Dayton's, since there is no Cincinnati teams left, I'll go with the, a little bias for the next closest team. And then I have Arizona beating Long Beach State, who was interesting because their coach got fired. So, and then they won the tournament.
Yeah, then they won the tournament. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. So I also had North Carolina and Michigan State winning. St. Mary's is, similar in my mind to BYU. I will just never pick them. So I picked Grand Canyon to upset them. Grand Canyon can score. They can get up and down. Yeah. They've, got somebody with legit NBA prospects. So I think when everything else is equal, if you have a guy that could potentially play in the NBA, you get the advantage there. I've got Alabama, although I almost went with Charleston just because Alabama plays no defense. But I was looking, Charleston's 3-point percentage is like low 30s. They're not a great 3-point shooting team, so I don't think that's a real upset pick there. I've also got New Mexico State and Baylor. I picked Dayton and Arizona as well. Dayton is the best 3-point shooting team in the tournament. As a team, they're over 40%. So, that's huge for them. So going into the second round here, round of 32, I've got chalk. So I've got UNC, Alabama, Baylor, and Arizona advancing.
Okay. I have all the same except I have St. Mary's beating Alabama. So I have North Carolina. I'm going with the slow 3-point shooting guys, and the St. Mary's crew. So North Carolina versus St. Mary's, and then Baylor versus Arizona. I'd love to see Dayton win. That's one I'll be rooting for me to be wrong on, definitely. But then that puts us into the Elite 8 games. I have North Carolina beating St. Mary's, and I have Arizona beating Baylor. And then I have North Carolina beating Arizona to make the Final Four.
So my Elite 8 games, I've got Alabama and Arizona moving on, and I've got Arizona making the Final Four. And I do just want to put this on record. This is the 3rd year in a row I picked Arizona to make the Final Four. If they don't make it this year, Tommy Lloyd, wherever he coaches, will be put into the BYU and St. Mary's. And as you'll see here in a little bit, the Gonzaga bracket, where just don't trust them, never going to pick them. So Tommy Lloyd's on notice out there in Arizona. So we'll move over to the South region.
Hold on, real quick. Who did you have winning between Baylor and Arizona? I missed that.
I had Arizona against North Carolina, and then I have North Carolina winning to go to the Final Four.
Alrighty, thanks.
Yep.
All right, so here in the South region, I've got Houston over whatever team they're playing. I think it's Longwood.
Longwood.
Great college name.
There's your trivia question. Where is Longwood located? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. I'd say Mississippi. I have no idea. I've got Nebraska over Texas A&M. I've got upset James Madison over Wisconsin, Duke over Vermont, Texas Tech over NC State, Kentucky over Oakland, and then I've got the winner of the play-in game, which I think will be Boise State will beat Florida. And then I've got Marquette. I got the first round there.
Okay, I have exactly the same 4. I have or the same 8, I should say. I have Houston, Texas A. Did you say Texas A&M or did you say?
I said Nebraska.
Oh,
Nebraska.
I don't have the same 8. Okay, I missed that one. But I have Houston, Texas A&M. I have James Madison against Duke. I have Texas Tech against Kentucky, and I have Florida against. Oh, I have Florida. I don't have the first 4 winner, and I have Florida versus Marquette.
Alrighty. And Longwood is located in Farmville, Virginia.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know it was on this side of the country. So,
yeah, neither.
Okay, and that takes us to the next round. I have Houston beating Texas A&M. I have James Madison winning again against Duke. Moving on, so Houston and James Madison, and I have Kentucky versus Marquette.
I've got Nebraska upsetting Houston, Duke beating James Madison, Kentucky over Texas Tech, and then Marquette over Boise State, who I think will win the playing game. So that puts us into the Sweet 16, where I've got Duke beating Nebraska, Marquette over Kentucky, and then I've got Duke going to the Final Four.
Even the Dukies, huh?
I do. I think they can put something together here.
Okay. Did you get all that, Benji?
Yeah, I got all of Sam's.
Okay. So then I have Houston beating James Madison, and I have Kentucky beating Marquette, and then I have Houston going to the Final Four.
Got it.
And that puts us into the Midwest.
Yeah.
This is my upset bracket.
Uh-oh. Is he going to do it again? 16.
You're going to do it again? Oh, no, I don't have that, but I'm not long after that, though. So you want me to? I'll get it going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I have Purdue beating whoever the final or first 4 winner is. I have TCU beating Utah State. I have McNeese beating Gonzaga. I have Samford beating Kansas, not Stanford, but Samford beating Kansas. I think Kansas is. I mean, granted, they're missing their 2 best players, but I mean, God, they were.
You lost to UC
god
by
awful.
20. By 20.
They haven't beat anybody by 20 this year.
No.
even those games in the first part of the year when they were playing the nobodies. So I don't. I mean, they're gonna have to integrate. What's the big dude's name? For Kansas.
Dickinson.
They got to integrate him and McCullough back in and right away and stuff. And I just.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm gonna go Samford there, and then I have Oregon also upsetting South Carolina. I have Creighton beating Akron. Do I like the MAC? I can't go with the MAC team here. I have whoever, UVA or Colorado State. I have them beating Texas. I put Virginia down. I think they'll win, but I don't care who it is out of those 2. I'm going to pick them over Texas. And then I have Tennessee beating St. Peter's.
So I've got Purdue as well. I've got Utah State over TCU. I did pick McNeese, as I mentioned earlier. Gonzaga is another team I just never pick to win anything. I don't even think they've ever won a game in the NCAA tournament. So I did.
Wait. They made the finals like 2 years in a row or something.
I don't think so. I don't remember that. I do have Kansas over Samford. I think just talent-wise, they're just going to be a little too much for them there. I've got South Carolina over Oregon, so no upset for me there. Took Creighton, Texas, and then Tennessee to round out the first round matchups there. Let's see. So yeah, on to the round of 32. We've got Purdue over Utah State. I got McNeese over Kansas, so McNeese going to the Sweet 16. Got Creighton over South Carolina and Tennessee over Texas.
Okay. Did you get those, Ben?
You have.
Okay. Here's my it's going to happen again here. TCU beating Purdue. They're just going to out athletic Purdue. I watched Purdue, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is not very good. They still beat Purdue. I'm sorry. I have McNeese also winning. I beat them beating Samford. And then I have Creighton beating Oregon. And I have Tennessee beating, in my case, Virginia or Colorado State, whichever of those teams that they play. I have Tennessee winning that. And then moving on from there, I have TCU continuing. They're continuing on to get beating McNeese. And I have Creighton beating Tennessee. And I have Creighton making the Final Four.
Creighton in the Final Four.
Over TCU.
So I've got Purdue over McNeese to make it to the Elite Eight. And then I've got Creighton over Tennessee. And I've got Purdue beating Creighton to make their first ever Final Four. Or second ever Final Four. Sorry, I made one back in the day. So that takes us to the Final Four here.
Well, maybe let's state our Final Four teams. Just
quick recap. Yeah. So my Final Four teams are 2 seed out of the East, Iowa State. 2 seed out of the West, Arizona. 4 seed out of the South, Duke, and 1 seed out of the Midwest, Purdue.
Okay, we have none of the same Final Four. So
right.
I have a one seed UConn, 1 seed North Carolina, 1 seed Houston, and a 3 seed Creighton. So
all right.
So then that puts us at East versus West, which I have UConn versus North Carolina. I have UConn in that one, Benji. And then in the South versus Midwest, which is huge for me, Houston versus Creighton, I have Houston.
All right. Sam?
All right. So mine, East-West, I've got Iowa State, Arizona. I've got Iowa State winning that one. And then South Midwest, Duke versus Purdue. I've got Purdue winning that one. And then I've got Purdue doing it and winning the national championship, redeeming themselves from last year.
Pulling a Virginia, huh?
Yep, pulling a Virginia.
And then I have UConn versus Houston in the final, and I have Houston getting back to I guess I never really won all those, the Phi Slamma Jamma, but they made it to the final several years. So I have them this time getting over the hump and beating UConn to win the national championship. I said from the very first thing when I was doing this, I said Big 12. I have a Big 12 bias, and so I'm going to pick the Big 12 champion
Big 12.
to win the whole thing. So that's that.
I mean, that's why I have Iowa State making it as far as I do. It's part of the Big 12 was the best conference this year. One of their teams is going to have to at least make the Final Four or the championship game, I feel like. So I had Iowa State, but I think Purdue's gonna avenge the ghost from last year and win the whole thing. So that's what I've got there. You got anything else, Crawley, before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think so. It's as you know, I know it was last week you weren't here, was it? Or was it 2 weeks ago you weren't here?
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Because it was when we did the trios, which that was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, the trios, and my question that for your dad was how you rank your sporting events, and I had World Cup. Because I had said, I wish you were here for this one. It was World Cup, NCAA basketball tournament, or NFL playoffs. In terms of how you would rank those.
Yeah, probably in that order. World Cup, NCAA tournament, NFL playoffs.
Yeah. And that's
what I said. But
it's close 1 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yeah.
The
Well,
NCAA
for me,
tournament I love. So
the Thursday and Friday, I would say, is better than the World Cup, but the rest of it, I think the World Cup has the edge. So overall, I'd still go with the World Cup there. But I mean, yeah, the Thursday and Friday of March Madness, I mean, those might be the 2 best days on the sports calendar. So
yeah. So hopefully we have a good tournament, and there's some upsets, and there's some a lot of times, it's not like I'm putting that much money on anything in the betting world. So a lot of times I'll sacrifice my bracket to some good upsets. So
yeah, yep. Just for the teams that are going to pull the upsets, no more just making it to the Sweet 16. Actually, make the Final Four, so we can actually get a story. I feel like we haven't had one of those since VCU, where a team kind of double-digit seed out of nowhere actually made the Final Four. We don't need any more St. Peter's just making the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight actually make the Final Four, or don't upset the big dogs. So just keep that in mind for all you guys out there. That's what we want to see. So
we did have. Last year wasn't a double-digit seed. We had Florida Atlantic. I think they were a 9.
I think
year.
They were a 9. Yeah,
we had a couple. Because last year, because I was trying to look this up, it was, if you took the combined seeds of the Final Four, it was 23.
23, yeah.
Which was high.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was like the second highest I've ever had, because you had 2 5 seeds, and I think maybe 1 1. It was only in the 1 1 seed.
Yeah, I think there was one.
And UConn versus San Diego State was 2 5 seeds. So
yeah.
So you did have, not the crazy double, a 12 seed making the Final Four like VCU and George Mason and that kind of thing. But it still was a pretty, from a seed standpoint, a pretty wild tournament. So
yeah, that it was. So yeah, hopefully we can get some excitement this year. Lots of good close games. Always want to stay away from the blowouts in March. So keep it close, keep it exciting, and our eyes will be glued to the TV. So yeah, I think that's a good show there. So you guys can catch the podcast. I don't know if we got a YouTube video today or not, Benji. Is it just live you didn't get, or if it's on YouTube, you guys can watch it. If it's not, just listen to it wherever you guys get your podcasts. And we'll see you guys next week, hopefully. Don't know what day. Just kind of depends on my dad's softball schedule, when he can squeeze time in, around this time of year to get the podcast in. So
and next week, I believe we're talking kind of our Reds opening day preview. So Reds preseason awards. So we'll give a best shot at who we think MVP will be in Cy Young for the Reds, and then I'm sure we'll have several goofy awards as well. So check that out a week from next week. So
yep. All right, everybody, have a good rest of your night and a great week. See you guys later.
Take care.